Ṣẹ̀kẹ̀rẹ̀ lọ bá jó, ṣẹ̀kẹ̀rẹ̀ lọ bá jó, olúwa mi ò dìde ojó ṣẹ̀kẹ̀rẹ̀.
Hello and welcome to the Ashen Forge. I am Phantom X, joined as always by Diggs and the legendary Neurotoxin. How are you two doing?
Doing good.
I'm great.
Excellent, excellent. We are back on time. I feel like the last few weeks we've kind of skipped a week, and we actually, yay, made it. Every Sunday is the goal. So,
Well, just jumping on to the Bennifer news, right before they got married, I guess this weekend. Thursday, I was walking in the cha-cha class, and Jennifer walked right past me without her aunt. She was walking towards her entourage, so she walked right past me out of the studio as I was walking in. Kind of interesting.
did you say
The
anything?
beauty of living in LA.
Did you wave, say hi?
No, my dance instructor was saying to her, "I danced with you in the movie. Shall we dance?" She was like, yeah, okay, thanks. So
Well, see, that's
I decided not to say anything.
the rule of Nashville is you are not supposed to say anything to anyone famous if you see them out on the streets.
Yeah,
and
basically.
that is why they come here to live, because they get left alone.
Yep.
Well, I did not think we would start off with Bennifer news, but moving on. Anything new in the Ashes of Creation forums before we? I didn't ask you that beforehand. I feel like you're the one that cruises through them. So.
Oh yeah, the big talk in the forums this past week was about the debate over BDO combat and how it's so much better than it's the best form of action combat. So Ashes should be pulling inspiration from BDO. I hope they don't. I think it's not necessary, but there's one person who loves BDO combat and thinks it's the best. Action combat is the best, and all MMORPGs should have action combat and preferably BDO combat.
I mean, what do they say what it is? I feel like it's just standard action combat. I don't understand what specific to BDO is so cool, other than for the animations.
Once you get into max level PvP, the combat totally changes, and it's totally excellent, and especially the flow from animations and combos is excellent. But you have to have a very high gear score. You have to be max level and into PvP to understand that. So
I mean, that's probably true. That is probably true. I mean, BDO PvP very much is a click. I mean, it takes a lot of time, a lot of money, which is not something I've ever done. So,
but I don't know. If you got to get that far for the combat to be good, then I mean,
that doesn't sound like it's actually very good then.
Yeah.
It isn't compelling 1 to 60 or whatever the level range is, then it's probably not worth playing to get to 60.
Yeah. I wonder what my volume is like over here, but I don't know. So that was there were like 2 threads about that with the same guy running both of them for 8+ pages. But
BDO combat.
There was an interesting. This might lead us to talk about the new cosmetics. There was because the new cosmetics actually prompted the necro of this topic of female cosmetics. There's a few people who would like to see more feminine versions instead of unisex versions of the cosmetics, and totally hated these new Dunir armor set that had them mostly in plate and doesn't really show off a nice female version of that plate. Although I actually prefer this one to be unisex. I think I prefer most of them to be unisex, and I think I would like for my, if they're more feminine, then I would like to have my non-binary male characters to be able to have something feminine to wear. So I'm fine with them being mostly unisex as long as you know my male characters who are into that can look a little bit more feminine, and my female characters, some of them might want to look a little bit more androgynous or non-binary, or some of them might want to look gender neutral or masculine. I don't know. There's I think there should be a nice. So all that to say that, yeah, maybe we should see some more feminine attire in the cosmetics. I'll go for that. But I think the ones we got for the Dunir this month looked excellent.
Yeah, I would imagine there's probably more, and honestly, these look very like utilitarian. They've got the bags and pouches and stuff like that. I honestly kind of interpret it more as like a hard leather than a like a brass or a bronze, and that this is more of like a medium armor set.
I gotcha.
Not actually plate. Um,
I think
so
it's the helmet that makes me think of plate more, but
yeah, but a metal helmet doesn't necessarily, mean that the rest of the stuff isn't potentially leather. It's just, you
I
got to
agree.
have
Yeah,
a hard metal helmet if it's actually going to stop anything.
I agree.
It made me think of like repair or engineering sort of thing. And when you look at the context of the rest of it, the cannon turtle, the mountable bear. I mean, I don't think you can actually mount them, but they've got saddles. The bears on the caravan. The odd antennas and weather vane on the stone structure there. It all has like the feel of like a science/military node sort of synergy, as the Dunir would interface with it.
Mm-hmm.
And then likewise for more of their stealthy operations, we have the rogue doggo over there who after seeing that, I go back to something that I'm pretty sure I've said at least at some point along the way. Torchlight had it right with pets. Being able to have a pet that helps you in combat, that helps you do this and that can stash a few items, and then if you want, you can send it back down to sell those items and come back with some potions of healing. I thought that was really smart. So I don't think that's actually what's going to be going on here, but the good doggo pet with the potions and the sword and the armor is kind of a fun sort of take on, like, if you're doing more stealthy reconnaissance sort of stuff, which again, I would imagine if this is actually more leather, other than the helmet, since it's not going to be clanking on much of anything, you'd be fairly quiet wearing that compared to big chunky metal set.
Yeah, I was thinking color scheme wise, I would There was a tweet from Ashes of Creation about what we would do in those armor sets. And I was thinking if they made a set that we could find in game that matched those boulder creatures, it would be great for an ambush. I'd love to kind of hunker down and try and camouflage with those boulders in that similar type of armor. I mean, Dunir, people keep telling me Dunir are supposed to be like boulders.
There was
movable boulders anyway.
There was that ice golem armor skin they had a few months back. Maybe it could even be as far as a year ago at this point. That definitely gets sort of to the look that you were talking about. Hey, I'm just a walking ice cube. Don't mind me.
Mm-hmm.
All I see.
Go ahead.
All I see is Pokemon. I put the link so you can see I'm not crazy. That dog and then the thing down in the bottom right. All I see is Pokemon.
Oh, I get you. What would you? So they asked this question on Twitter, I guess on YouTube as well, about what other type of stuff you would want on the mounts. And yeah, I'm kind of wondering, is that supposed to be a telescope or is that supposed to be a cannon?
Cannon.
Because I was thinking.
I like the idea of it being a telescope,
right?
But
I was thinking
it's a cannon.
I was thinking that could be cool. Maybe it's a potion launcher.
Why is there a cannon? Because you don't need gunpowder. All you need is sealed tube, or a tube with it sealed on one end and open on the other, and a thing here, and an explosion between them. Magic explosion, whatever, chemical alchemy. What one time killed some person who mixed two of the wrong chemicals is instead the propellant that launches things for you. So yeah, I could see there being a cannon in this world.
Yeah, but on a non-functional skin, that's just weird. Like, does it work?
It would. I'm pretty sure this would be a
battle mount.
It would either be a skin that replaces a like an actual weapon of some sort, it's like a reskin of a catapult or something, or the trebuchet, I guess.
I think it's probably a reskin of a battle. It's a skin for a battle mount. Who says what's coming out of that cannon?
It calls itself the Storm Snapper Rangefinder Mount Cosmetic Skin.
I think that's why I was thinking maybe it was more of a telescope rangefinder. But
I don't know. And then the color scheme just is, I don't know.
Yeah, the Ashes color schemes are kind of wonky to me, but it's better than purple and green, so I'm okay with it.
I'm fine with purple and green.
Normally, I don't care, but I will not wear that.
I think this one looks all right. If you are trying to do things that are sneaky, that nice, lapis lazuli blue is not going to do you any favors. It's going to stand out. It's like, oh, what's that blue tan thing walking in the distance? Why, that's one of those dwarf engineer looking dudes.
Yeah, and the other thing that I was thinking about with regard to the complaint about these not looking feminine enough. I mean, you don't have to buy these if you don't like them.
Correct.
The nice thing is that they're indicative of what similar things can be found in the game, but you can mix and match those. So, this has me thinking more about what I'd really want to mix and match with. Maybe I just want the top, and then I'll do some kind of different leggings, or
I mean, this is a whole set. You can't take this apart.
That's in the cosmetic. That's it for the cosmetics that we buy. But in game, we mix and match. So we can find similar stuff with a different color scheme,
Right.
and then mix and match them. So I mean, that's what I'm saying. You don't have to buy these. These are just giving us an idea of some of the stuff that they're working on, which I think is great. And then if you don't like that whole set, don't buy it, and then piece together the parts that you like. I mean,
I realize with the doesn't look feminine enough sort of thing, they probably use a very neutral body for that. If you want to, go full on dwarf Lara Croft, and their body is just in such a shape that it wouldn't come out looking like that. It's going to conform to your body. It's not going to change your body type to match that skin. So if that doesn't look feminine enough for you for a denier, then make your feminine looking denier look feminine, I guess, and
and so
it'll conform to the body for you.
Yeah, the same person chose a different armor, one that was more like it's a hooded armor, like forced armor, something I would expect an elf to wear. And the body with that, she was like, they didn't make the body look feminine. There weren't enough boobs and there weren't any hips. And I'm like, well, not all women have big boobs and big hips. There are petite women, and if you want that, make the boobs bigger and make the hips bigger, and then the armor will probably conform more to that. But some women don't want to accentuate their boobs or hips, so I think that's okay. But yes, sure, let's have some more feminine armor, and again, that could be unisex too. I don't mind having male characters that look a little bit more feminine. So I don't know. I wouldn't say that. I mean, I would say let's have more feminine appearing armor, but I'd still want that to be unisex, probably. And then, like I said, we can mix and match later, right?
Yeah.
So
Doesn't matter to me.
I guess I kind of wonder what the last live stream's going to do in terms of affecting freehold sales. I think I had mentioned this last week, but it's something that I really wonder if this is like kind of an oops that happened, or if it's something that they wanted to finally clear the air about this now, so that way it isn't a rip the band-aid off on day one sort of thing where people feel screwed because they bought 50 different freehold skins, not realizing that they might never have but one in their entire time playing the game.
So what do you mean by that?
So it's going to take a lot of effort and resources to build a freehold, to be able to have your own freehold. And so it's not that it's impossible, but the amount of effort that they mean for it to have, and I believe there's a maximum of one freehold per character, possibly one freehold per account.
It's one freehold per account. Yeah.
I think that one might still be up in the air. And even if it's settled on one thing, they could always change it later on. They'll just let us know. But if you're not going to be able to, if you might have a freehold and you might be able to put like 2 or 3 of those freehold structures on it, I think people are going to be kind of feeling put out for the amount of effort that it's going to take, because they thought it was going to be a lot easier to own and live in these homes. And B, for people that already have a bunch of freehold structures like myself, I don't really feel inspired to buy anymore, at this point. I've got
Yeah.
more than enough for a main and an alt, which is not, potentially not even allowed right now. So I'm not too worried about like getting any more freeholds. If I see a skin that I like, if I see a pet that I like, if I see an accessory that I like, sure, I might get it. But me personally, I'm not thinking the freehold thing that was announced is going to do them any favors for the sales of their freeholds going forward. And I see Theater Elf there in chat. You're saying that you found it very discouraging as well. I think this is something that we're going to see as more and more people start to realize, the magnitude of that statement. There will be less and less inclination to buy those items. If that means the ones going forward go in at a lower price point or something, that's kind of screwy in a different way, because everyone that already bought some up to this point will then kind of be feeling put out by it. And unless they're going to compensate everyone with embers or something to make up the difference, then, and so there's reasons to leave it the way it is.
That's interesting.
But it kind of sucks.
I hadn't even thought of that freeholds, are just as abundant as armor and mounts, and probably purchase just as much. And I'm curious again, when you talk about your relationship with your clients, the players, like if you're selling them something that gets near impossible to get, and for the last 3 years no one knew that. It's not like Star Citizen, selling ships that you're guaranteed to get, right? You just have to have a port to put it in, and then you can just go fly it somewhere.
It's not near impossible to achieve a freehold. It's just a lot of damn effort.
Well,
and it's a lot of damn effort for
limited.
Something that can get knocked down at some point.
But it sounds like it's limited, and I wonder how much of this is tech limited, just space in the world, and how much is it an effort to keep things not looking terrible, right?
It might be partially a tech limit, yes, partially space in the world. But then the other thing that I want to factor for, he'd said that, and I realize I'm cutting you off, so I'm going to hand this back over to you. He also said that the best stuff you'll be able to craft requires the crafting stations that are set up on Freehold. So there is a top end gameplay limitation that also requires freeholds and access to them.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, because I was going to, at some point tonight, wanted to bring this back up about freeholds. One was just sort of a comment that was on the last YouTube video. Another was that specific statement that, when he was talking about it, the reasoning, I'm sure there's a lot of reasons, but the reasoning he gave was what you said. The best processing occurs on a freehold. So when I hear limited, hard to get, I think of one of two reasons for that. One is time. So is it someone that just has 12 hours a day to dedicate to so is it just a time commitment? And because, people have jobs, they're going to be automatically shut out because they just can't keep up well, I shouldn't say that, because a lot of people do work at home now. So is it like, I don't know, just is it, are you going to be, if you have to go into the office still, are you going to be at a disadvantage or something like that, right? And then the other part is also, I tend to think of, these big combat raid guilds getting, top-notch stuff. So when he mentions processing, so is that going to be more favorable to crafters? If someone is really, if you spend more time in a crafting, processing part of the game, are you going to be able to get a freehold quicker than other people? And I also actually could see the argument against that too. If you weren't a crafter, right, that would also feel pretty terrible on the other end. If you were just a combatant, like that, you get locked out of a freehold because you don't want to craft. So I'm very curious to see what the requirements are. I think when we start to better understand that part, like, it will be more clear what he means. But So
I think
Yeah.
the biggest part is it's not a theme park and you're not an island. And what I mean by it's not a theme park is that it's not configured for everybody to be able to do everything. It's not meant for everybody to be able to do everything. But the other thing, you are not an island. Your guildies, your friends, the people that you're playing with. Maybe you aren't going to be the one who owns the freehold, but you arranged with your friends that one of them is who, like the 4 or 5 of you, pool the resources towards because they're the most active crafter or player person of your friends. And so they're the one who owns the freehold. They give you access to all of the tools and resources and benefits because it's your little, group freehold sort of thing. That's probably more how I would expect a lot of players are going to get access to them. Isn't necessarily the one they build and own themselves from their, all their blood, sweat, and tears getting the materials and everything, but their friends, their guildies, that's where you're going to be seeing the collaboration to, help get a few of them set up in key places with key facilities that you need.
because another part to this, the question or the statement that was on our last YouTube video was the comment. I think I had made I had read this as, if you were under a siege and you lost the siege, you lose your freehold, and it's going to take another monumental task to get a freehold. The person that was commenting on the video had a different perspective. One that, no, you just have to find a new space. Like, you've already done that challenge to be able to occupy a freehold, so you shouldn't have to redo that. You just need to find a place that's not taken. I doubt that's how it's done, especially if it's tied. Are freeholds tied to citizenship, to a node?
You have to be a citizen
Yeah.
in order to
So it's not going
put
to
down
be
a
as
freehold.
simple as just, here's a free spot.
I think I understand what's going on, and they're mistaking two things, I believe. If I'm not mistaken, all of the decorations that you set up for your freehold, for your home, will transfer to the next one when you set it up. That said, if you want to do it that way, if you want to copy it over, I believe it'll either everything comes in boxes and you can just click to auto place everything where it used to be, or you can redecorate with all of your stuff. I think they might be mistaking that. Yes, your pre-decorated home will come with you when your node gets knocked over. Your freehold, though, not so sure. In fact, I don't even know if the structures on your freehold get popped in for free, or you have to get the materials and build those up as well.
Yeah, and if they
Yeah,
and
you
if
get your
it's
blueprints.
yeah, but if it's super easy, like what's the point of even helping to defend the node, right? So that goes against everything that Steven wants to do. That if, I can just cut bait, leave, go find a new spot, and within 10 minutes put down a new freehold, then what's the point in participating and defending your node? It sucks, though. Yeah, I keep thinking of Arcade, right? So I don't know. Did either of you play that? So
No.
of course, had a somewhat of a housing component, and you logged on, and if you weren't able to go right at the start, like, all of the spots were taken, and there were tons of them, and they were all right together. So it looked terrible, but also, scarcity. It didn't have the initial appearance of scarcity, but even with the amount that they had, it was very quickly taken. So I keep thinking of that and how disappointing. I'm like AOC Crafter. I have really limited interest in combat caravans. I'll defend a node if I have to. I would much rather supply help through a crafting means or sabotage through a crafting means. So sort of indirect, but I'll participate. But, this whole past 3 years, the idea has been I'll have a freehold. And now it's starting to sound as though, I'm not so sure that I'll ever actually get a freehold. And that's very frustrating.
I'm pretty sure you would get a freehold on your own, but my expectation was that I would be helping Phantom progress his Freehold in any case. So, and I'm expecting to have a Freehold of my own as well somewhere. But yeah, I mean, I think that that might require some more questions. I wish we had that quote. I guess if I knew we were going to talk about this, I would have loved for us to have the actual quote so we can see what it says, because I I don't think it's as dire as what you are making it out to be. But what was the other thing about? Oh, Freehold skins. So the other thing in the forums was somebody bought a temple. The what, it's like the gray. I want to say gray skull, gray scale, gray something. Freehold skin, which is a temple. Maybe it's gray scar, and they want to use it as a tavern. And now they're wondering if they're going to be able to even uh, put a temple skin over a tavern freehold. And I'm kind of like, I don't know why you would buy a temple skin and be upset that you can't put it on a tavern, because
I think that's
it's a
hilarious.
temple.
That's awesome.
I mean, I don't know that it's the case, but they're saying that we need to learn more about freehold. So maybe that's true. Maybe we need to have more discussion about freeholds coming forward so that we have a better idea of how they're supposed to work. I'm thinking also that you'll probably have several buildings on your freehold, or the possibility of that, especially as you progress it. So, like when Neuro says, I've bought several freehold skins, maybe they're so different that you wouldn't put them all on the same space. I don't know. But,
No, actually, they would go very, very well together.
yeah. So,
yeah,
I don't think it's
I
just
think the one you might be
skin
thinking
per
of is the Protector Sanctuary, by the way.
It's gray something. What's the name of it?
Gray something?
Yeah. It's like gray scar. Gray.
Oh, Gray Cage.
Yes, the gray cage. That's it.
Oh,
the gray cage. Yep.
that ugly, rotten pagoda place.
Yeah, and can you read the description? Do you have the description for it? The description is
Deep in the bowels of the twisted wood lies the formidable temple of the dark arts. Various sacrificial rites take place within this damned bastion, and not even the cries of the misfortuned escape its walls. It is here that the most vile of shamans leads their people, and it is only a matter of time until they decide to take a bolder approach to their scheme.
And so this person was like, yeah, I bought that wanting to turn it into a tavern, and now I might not be able to. And I'm like,
all right.
Oh, okay.
You enjoy your not having a Swamp Death Tavern, bro.
Okay. I mean, I'm not saying that you won't be able to do it. Maybe you will be able to. But if you can't, I don't know why you would be expecting that you would be able to turn that torture chamber into a tavern. I spent my money thinking I could turn the torture chamber into a tavern. Okay.
And it's not even in good shape. It looks all like rotten and overgrown.
Yeah.
It sounds like a mess to begin with.
Yeah, and I'm not expecting my I'm not really expecting my freehold skins to be functional the way they, to meet the description, but I am kind of expecting to use it to RP it similar to the description. So if I buy a temple freehold skin, I'm kind of expecting to at least RP it as a temple. I don't know. That's just me. I wouldn't be upset.
But you could do it all kinds. Isn't there the thinking, I'm trying to make sure I'm not mixing up games. Is there a possibility of creating like an inn where people can get bonuses? I'm not thinking of the other game, am I?
I think you might be thinking of the other game.
Okay.
No. I mean, in the sense that you get there's tavern stuff that you can do with your freehold, right? So, but I would think that would be a tavern building that I could place down, and that would get me a kitchen, and that would get me those task boards where you can send people on quests. Um, but I would think you might also have a temple building for your freehold, and maybe you get religious related quests or tasks there. And
Now I'll take the thing that Neuro just described and sell apple pies.
Haunted apple pies.
I think you'll be able to do that. I don't know.
Not haunted.
Definitely
sell
make
pie.
sure your children eat them.
Yeah, I don't know that I would eat an apple pie from the Gray Cage. I think I probably would not. What's in those apple pies? That has me thinking of Sweeney Todd. Like I don't know. So yeah, maybe it would be nice to get some. We should ask a question in the next dev live stream when they bring up. See if they'll answer that as one of the 12 that we get.
I'm all tapped out for the year.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right, I could keep going on and on about freeholds, but I think I'll quit. I would say to end it that I would hope they have heard some of the concern, especially from their sort of PvE crafting community, and would maybe clarify Steven's what he means by that. That would be very helpful. Although I would guess that they probably would only do that if they see changes to sales on freehold skins. So,
somebody down on freeholds. You put the quote in the chat. I'm looking at it now.
Yeah, that was the full quote before he went in talking about the instant stuff. I have to say one more thing. I would this helps me. It's issues like this where I understand why like EverQuest 2 goes to instance to housing. I have to say I would much rather have the freehold system be instanced and know that I'm going to have a spot to be out work out of than not. So I don't know. Again, I keep talking about Final Fantasy, and Diggs is, I think, looking forward to this. Like, you're going to have a whole crafting island that is your own here soon in August.
Oh, on the Final Fantasy, yeah, that's going to get me into the game. Yep. But I would prefer for it not to be instanced in Final Fantasy. I don't play it, so I don't mind it being instanced. In Ashes, I would prefer freeholds to not be instanced. I would also like the idea of having some of those in node housing, which is open world, and then there's instance apartments so that everybody can have something.
Exactly. That's the thing I was going to bring up is the instance apartments. Everybody can live in an apartment. They have their residence, but it would only be, you only need one person that has the freehold to be able to set down the tools and processing systems and stuff on them.
Yeah, and this says right here, if a player wants to achieve a freehold, they can achieve the freehold. That's different than a flying mount. You can't get a flying mount just because you want one. Those are actually limited. So this is saying that if a player wants a freehold, they can achieve a freehold. It's just not going to be like plop it down immediately. It's not going to be like you get a mount. Like, you can pretty much go in the game and get a mount within an hour. It doesn't mean you're going to be able to get a freehold spot within an hour. And I think that's the kind of idea of this land rush that people are expecting, because I think that's kind of what was available in Arcade. Like, you went in and you ran and you tried to grab your spot as quickly as possible. And I think what Steven is saying here is it's not going to be that easy.
Yeah, and I like welcome first time chatter. I like that. Not everyone can be citizens. I understand. I get that. I understand that it forces you to stay to a group, build what you're a part of. I mean, I understand the reasoning, and that's fine. I don't mind, just as long as as you just put it, Diggs, eventually, with hard work, I know that I will get a freehold. As long as my time and investment, even if it's over 2 months rather than 2 weeks ultimately ends up with some sort of reward.
Yeah.
I think that's fine. I can just imagine if you planned on being a processor, like because they specifically say the best processing occurs on a freehold. So if you don't get a freehold, like what are you're just gonna have to find something else to do, I guess, because
Or you find somebody who has a freehold and you pay the fee.
Yeah. Or share your resources with them. There's all kinds of stuff. I
Yeah.
mean, I loved doing that in Landmark, of just saying, hey, I'll go grab. I'm not building, so I'll go and grab some stuff and give you some resources. Maybe you'll build some stuff for me. Or sometimes I was just like, I know you're going to build something really cool with this, so tell me what resources you need, and I'll go grab them for you. I mean,
Yeah, and that is the sort of thing that they like, is the idea that there will be markets and there will be trade and there will be, people making deals with each other, and that's the sort of stuff but if everybody has a freehold, then you don't have that sort of emphasis on the economic exchange and taking on certain tasks to fit into part of a larger system of resources in and out, and equipment in and out, money in and out, etc.
mm-hmm.
Well, we got like 20 minutes left, maybe, and haven't even gotten to the map part, which is what the show title is actually about. So,
Hey, X marks the spot. We were talking about freeholds. Where are we going to put our freeholds? That's what we were talking about.
no, because I don't know yet.
So, the maps.
So, what's the question?
Well, so the dev question that was put out is kind of, I think everyone gets what they're trying to ask, but it was kind of asked in a not great way. Let me pull it up. Would you like to see a traditional MMO world map that, once explored, updates with the ever-changing state of the world, or would you prefer to see more innovative ways of keeping maps up to date? I assume that means a cartographer class. That seems to be what everyone in the responses thinks this question means.
Right. So, I would very much like for them in the next dev live stream to give us some options. What are the devs thinking our options might be other than cartography? That's what I want to know. That would certainly help me weigh in a lot better, because while I would love to have cartography, what other innovative stuff are they thinking about? I mean, I will say that I used to say that minimap is very important in MMORPGs. Um, lots of people like to do this hardcore thing, and they don't realize that uh, even in real life, there are people who have poor navigation skills, and in real life, we have all kinds of extra um, uh, sensory ways of looking at things, or memorizing things, or you know, triangulating things. And when you're just in a basically 2D space, it helps to have um, multiple ways of perceiving the space that you're moving through and determining what your landmarks are. Um, so I think minimap is usually important, but New World had a great thing, no minimap, but I loved the compass. The compass worked just as well for me as the minimap. So if you can come up with something different that works, that would be great. But I was not expecting a compass, and I wouldn't have known how that compass would work if I hadn't experienced it myself. So I would love for them to give us some of the ideas that they're thinking about that could be innovative alternatives to the minimap.
For me, what I'm thinking about with the map stuff is I like the idea of cartography, but I think cartography is going to be limited in the overworld. It might be little updates here and there to where the season changes the roads and the pathways and the passages, and that would be something that would need to be reported on. The underground stuff, how it rearranges and shifts and changes. I believe that's what it's planning to do. That would be something a cartographer would be able to, do a lot of updates on. But I think the thing that's the biggest, and I suppose also dungeons. It might be that the layout of a dungeon will change every time the boss is dropped to 25% before it total party wipes everybody and kicks them out. And it just like full on kicks them out, and regenerates the dungeon in a different way or something. They've got the tools to do it. Or otherwise, when the seasons change around, it's sealed and then unsealed again, that it would have potentially different content. So you'd have to go map that out. But no, the biggest one for me, it isn't where the land mass is and where the borders are. It's what the cultures are up to. And so I kind of think of the system data from Elite Dangerous, where as you go from region to region to region, you'll accumulate data about what's been going on in that system. And then a few regions down the road, you can sell that data to them in order to get some extra cash, because they haven't interacted with that other system in a while. They don't know what that other system's been up to. So you're essentially acting as like, there's got to be a better term than mercenary informant, freelance cartographer, I guess, freelance sociologist cartographer or something, but that you're getting kind of the snapshot of what's going on in the regions as you pass through them, and you're able to communicate that to different cartographers, whether it's the municipal one in the city that you're at, or a specific guild, or you take it straight to the castle because it's super secret stuff that you only want the royalty to know about, and then they can disseminate orders from there. That's the sort of thing that I think would be really interesting with it, is that the players are responsible for helping keep the world map up to date, and things that have not been explored or checked out in a while. Just because you haven't visited it doesn't mean someone else hasn't visited it. It might be that you have to go to a town in the nearby area to find a more complete map than the one that you found, in the area that you're actually trying to do the work in, just because that other area maybe has better cartography, freehold stuff or whatever. But that's the sort of thing I think about with it.
So you reminded me that one of the things I wanted to say about cosmetics is I would also very much like to have cosmetics that represent crafters. Can we see some of those? I'd like to see some of those, is what I'm saying. I'm assuming at some point we will get some cosmetics that represent crafting artisans or whatever, but I would like to see that in the fairly near future. But what you also had me thinking of in terms of maps and the different types of maps, had me thinking about those heat maps that we saw in Revival. And I don't think that I necessarily want literal heat maps, but it would be kind of cool to have different forms of maps that, maybe I have my artisan map. Maybe I specifically have my blacksmithing map. It would kind of be interesting to see, what the focus of a specific type of map is. Maybe I don't even care about the new mobs in the area. I just want to know, especially since the resources are going to move from place to place. I don't know that I'm expecting one cartographer to be able to fill out everything on the map, but that would be another really cool thing if we had specialty cartographers who focused on certain aspects of the game, and we know that we want to go to this one if we want to do blacksmithing, we want to go to this one if we're going to do um, uh, animal husbandry. We're going to go to this one if we're going to do religion, even.
Or this person here specializes in the seasonal changes in the trade route. So if you want to know, either in the past or, some skill they have to make maps predictively, kind of where the next place you're going to need to be ready to go is when the caravans start moving, that you can actually be anticipating that sort of thing.
So
yeah, and the difference with the website Phantom is that because it's dynamic, it's going to be more challenging to have an up-to-date
I don't think so.
map on the
I doubt
website.
that. I mean, how long did it take for New World to have all of its resources uploaded to a map? I mean, I just don't think
its resources are static.
I think if you have even 200 regular players that use a website that provides some sort of data, there will be a delay. But I think ultimately, because my first thought on this, that's a great idea. The idea of relying on in-game players to provide maps, I think, is a wonderful idea. It's a great way to encourage social bonds and talking to people. But how quickly does it end up on the internet? Because I also think, well, I can make a fake map and trick some people. But if it's super simple to just go look on a website, so how do you get around that? Is sort of, maybe it is a location for a treasure. You have a treasure map that could be posted online. But if you've never actually had a cartographer put that on your map, it doesn't show up to your character when you go to that spot. I don't know. I'm just trying to think of other ways to get around it, because I really don't think
Treasure won't be static.
Yeah. None of that stuff is static.
A lot of things won't be static, and they'll also be in presumably completely different configurations based on what level the node itself is.
All that stuff.
Even if all of the, I would guess they're like, some sort of a generic gatherable socket or whatever. Even if every last location for every last socket that's placed everywhere around the game world, in every 1 to 6 tier state that node could ever be in, that still doesn't mean you necessarily know what's going to be in each of those sockets. So you'll have a grand map of a whole bunch of question marks, a whole bunch of asterisks that will be different every time. And I think it's going to be one of those things where some people might try to use it, but the amount of data that would be required for players to process is beyond a full-time job to be able to deliver it at a pace that it's actually relevant.
Okay, well,
it might take one to 2 weeks to survey all of that stuff, and by that time it's ready for the next season to roll around. Everything's just changed.
Okay, well, let's look at it from that standpoint. You just came across a nice big pile of ore, iron up in the hills, and so this is a new site. It should go onto a map. So you go, you mine it, you go find a cartographer. By the time they've actually put together something on a map that they can then turn around and sell, how likely is that iron node to still be there by the time they can actually put something out for sale?
I don't know. Maybe they're not the ones that want that information. Maybe it's actually,
because seasons
it could
go
be
quick.
that the mayor wants that information, so that way they know, okay, this person mined out this area, that person mined out this area. We need to tell people to stop mining this area because it'll have little rich deposits, but if we keep over mining it, we're going to be depleted. And so they might be the one that wants to know this cartography data that, oh, well, I found these nodes here and I mined them out. Well, I found these ones here. And that you're getting a flow of information to know where the materials are actually being gathered from in your area.
Theoretically, you're right. That logic works for in-game maps too, but in-game maps will be automatically updated. So,
Huh? Say that again?
The logic that I just presented, it does work if it's just It's not a cartography skill. It's just it's a map that gets updated based off of information on your screen, and that's true. But that gets updated much faster, I would assume, than a cartographer. So,
if we have it, right? We don't know what which one we're gonna have. But so we've got seasons changing, and seasons are going to be 1 week to 2 weeks. We've got the what are they calling it? The surveying. There's something along with the surveying where you want to survey to make sure that you don't over harvest or over mine an area. But also we've got the mobs are going to be changing based on which buildings are built where, and you know that's going to be somewhat determined by dominant race and all that stuff. So we've got lots of stuff that will be changing in a way that normally you have a wiki website, and whatever is there for that town is going to be there on every server for always, rather than stuff changing in and out week by week or every 2 weeks or whatever, and different servers. I mean, it's not only is it not the same on the one server, it's not the same on multiple servers. So I don't even know where you store all the information, so that it's not like you can just have a team of 5 people who go through the game and keep updating stuff. You're going to have that for like every server, and that's just not really going
I
to
mean,
be
you
a
would
thing.
just automate it. I won't go deep into what you could do with injections and stuff, but
Okay.
something like Cheat Engine and just looking for the
You
table.
strap GoPros to all of the gold farmers, and then you just aggregate all of that data and put it through.
Mhm. More reason to bot. I got you, Phantom.
Oh, I mean, you obviously run the risk of getting caught and getting banned from the game, as per Steven's hilarious 10 billion gold. That was funny, but
Yes.
but I'm just saying it's possible. I mean,
That's what happens if you try to do DPS meters.
There are very good tutorials out there for anyone who wants to try to learn C++ and do it in a way that is not good for games. But that is completely possible to do. So anyways, I'll stop there.
We'll see if it's possible. Somebody will try it. I don't know that it's going to be as helpful as one might think, but we'll see.
I also wonder how much data is going to be on the client side at any given time. If I remember this was something the other game was going to do, that they only stream down the data that you need relative to the area that you're at and what you could potentially interface with there. And that when I think about something like that for Ashes of Creation, I kind of think of like different valence rings, that there's going to be your like very close immediate, and there's the stuff that's kind of on the edge of your character's perception, and then there's the stuff that's far out into the distant background. I guess you probably couldn't see my hands for most of that, but anyway,
but you're supposed to. That's true, but you're supposed to see what you can see what you run to, right? So I don't think it would be you could see an iron node from halfway across the map, but at some point, I don't know. They're smart people; they'll find ways around it. So the developers, that's what I mean. They'll find ways to not make it simple to do.
Right. The intent of not giving people access to data until they're actually near it and able to interface with it, I think that might actually be part of the strategy of reducing the amount of data we have stored on our drives as well. I think of the hilarious example of somebody who's got 4 characters on 4 different servers and downloading the entire like surface world hull of each server in its current state alone is going to be a ton of data unless there's some way it's all just flipping switches and blending between layers, and they've just got this massive multi-layer adjustable switchboard going on in the background, looking like some 80s music producer, flipping all the sliders and everything during a recording. Like that's
we are starting to run out of time, and there's
Yeah.
one thing that I did want to mention that we didn't get to talk about from the Q&A last time, and it was this. It was a question that was answered about the caravan system, and I was curious y'all's thought. That the response that was given, I thought it was a very well thought out question. So the question was, they would like to know about caravan attackers. And what was the of course you have
What's the incentive? What's the incentive for an attack?
like what happens when they don't succeed? Like what's the discouraging part, right? It's supposed to be risk versus reward. So what is the risk of being an attacker? And the answer that was given was honestly kind of poor. It was basically gear. It was gear, your gear would suffer from that if you died, which makes sense. But then it was sort of, well, and then you just have this server reputation that you're just not a very good at caravans. Like it was more of a social driven risk and not a actual risk. Like there was no risk. Like if as an attacker you lost, could the defenders then loot you? Like that wasn't the answer that was given.
Well, I mean, if you've got trade resources on you, they should be able to.
No, that's when you die. So that's more like death penalties. It's more like, right? You can either succeed in defending your caravan, right? But then what are the attackers risking? And the answer is that there are. It's not just quite social because there's quests associated with your progression in attacking or defending, and that's going to affect the quests that you get. And
your bandit rank.
Well,
or whatever.
They say bandit, but yeah, because you could be attacking or defending, and that's going to, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing is going to depend on,
Well, that's what he was saying. I think that's what he was saying is that if you've built up your bandit rank, people will see that, and then when you go apply to work on defense, it'll be like, no, screw you. And so to that extent, it almost feels like they want people to be career defenders or career attackers, or at least.
It depends on who your allies are. So he used the word brigand, but it's not really, because if you're attacking another node, that's good, right? That's good for your home node. And then defending your home node. So it just depends on where you are, whether or not that's a good thing.
So defenders get any kind of other than keeping their stuff, do they get any kind of
they
benefit?
also have quests. Yeah, they also have quests and reputation associated with successfully defending caravans. Yes.
I think you get a cash reward of some sort too.
You also get certificates if you there's stuff associated with that. Yes.
Okay. Well, that's a much better answer than, well, people will just think you're not very good at what you do.
Yep.
All right.
It will matter. If you suck at attacking caravans, if you're the Thippy Darkpaw of caravans, you'll have a reputation for it. And now that I've said that, I can immediately see the gears in your head spinning, Diggs, of I'm going to make Thippy Darkpaw for caravans. I'm going to make somebody who just throws their naked spear holding body at every caravan they see.
I mean, I might do that anyway. Maybe I suck at PvP that bad.
That you would strip down to make sure you get one-shotted?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I did have my main in EverQuest 2 only wore starting rags. So, I do have characters like that who have a flaw.
Fair enough.
All right. Well, we started 5 minutes late. We're now 10 minutes past. So,
all right.
All right, everyone, thank you for joining us this Sunday evening, and we will see you back here in a week. We all wish you have a very good week.
Yep.
See
See
ya.
you then, everybody. Have a good one.